this is week 109 of our weekly discussions, and today we're discussing 7 inspiring EA projects. So I'm not going to list all the inspiring EA projects, but just 7 that came to mind this week that I find particularly inspiring. You might disagree. I hope to hear what you find inspiring in the breakouts after this intro. So first, what is EA, or effective altruism? It's this idea to maximize the good you can do through your career, your projects, and your donations. It's also a community of many individuals and organizations who care about this idea and who gather around it. So we are the Christian sub-community within the broader EA movement. And I want to just jump straight in. So the first project that I find really inspiring is the GiveWell project. And GiveWell, as many of you know, is an organization that has tried to find a few outstanding giving opportunities. How do they do that? They look for charities that are highly transparent, that are really open with how they spend their money and what they spent it on. They look at charities that keep really good records of their data. What are the impacts of their projects? And oftentimes that's a very complicated thing to keep track of. And they look at various different things, like what's the impact per dollar from their projects, what's the room for more funding, and all in all, they find how you can have real change for your dollar, or really like maximize the impact for every dollar you donate. And this is different from like the charity navigators or other types of the world that maybe historically focus more on how do we measure the effectiveness of a charity based off of how much it spends on overhead costs. GiveWell instead focuses more on impact and marginal impact for every additional dollar you donate. To date, they've recommended, well, currently they have like 4 top recommended charities, but in the past they've reviewed hundreds, perhaps thousands of charities, and there's really just so much research on their website. I really encourage you, even if you have looked before, like go back and just pick a single charity you find interesting and read the notes that they have in discussions with that charity about how they measure impact. It's just really inspiring. They've helped move billions of dollars of donations, and they've helped literally save tens, hundreds of thousands of lives, if not more. And not just saved lives, but improved lives in many different ways. So I find them just very inspiring. The second project I find very inspiring is the Give Directly project. So Give Directly was a GiveWell charity for many years, and Give Directly focuses on essentially direct cash transfers to people living under $2.15 a day, people living in extreme poverty. This is still something like 600 or 700 million people. So if you were to look at the earth, something like 1 in every 10 people would fall into this category. And these are really the poorest people in the world. And Give Directly says, okay, let's take the problems of the poor seriously. Let's not try to send some consultant to try to guess what these people need. Let's have the confidence to give them money directly. Just give them money, no strings attached. And they started doing that. And they've done that now with, I think, close to $1 billion. Currently, they're giving away about 300 million a year. And there's been tons of studies about whether this actually works. In an early conversation they had with, I think, the philanthropy office at Google, someone accused them of like smoking crack. They thought this was just such a crazy idea. But they've really gained a ton of rapport. There have been about 200 studies, academic studies, done on these kinds of cash transfers. And the overwhelming evidence is that these are on net positive. And it's becoming something of a benchmark or a baseline for how we measure effectiveness. Also, fun fact, the directors of this charity are committed Christians. I have Rory Stewart here on the right, who used to head the international, essentially the foreign aid department in the UK government. He's now their president. Their director, Paul Niehaus, is also a committed Christian. And he spoke at our conference in the past, and he'll be speaking at an upcoming conference as well. So Give Directly, very inspiring. They really want to just end poverty. I mean, I was talking to Paul about a month ago, and he was telling me, JD, there's so many effective charities out there, and the EA movement really touches on quite a lot. But what Give Directly has the potential to do is really end poverty. You can really scale these cash transfer programs if you team up with international aid departments and really just move massive amounts of money and help so many millions of people. So just really inspiring project. A third project I find really inspiring, and I'll try to go a bit quicker through the rest, is New Incentives. So New Incentives is actually a new GiveWell charity that focuses on incentivizing people who are maybe on the edge of getting vaccinated, maybe not. They work basically only in Nigeria right now, and they have only existed for a couple of years, but in that time they've tested a pilot program where they would pay out about $11 in cash to families, to mothers and parents who are considering vaccinating their children or themselves getting vaccinated. And they figured out how to time these vaccinations and these payments in a way that effectively changes people's behavior, makes them much more likely to get vaccinated, and protects them against preventable diseases. They've currently given out millions of incentive or incentive to millions of individuals, and they think they've counterfactually influenced or caused I believe over 1 million people to get vaccinated. So the health wins from this are just massive. And I was talking with someone there recently who's a fundraiser there, who is a Christian, who's just really excited about the work they're doing. And I'm hoping we can just talk more about this in the future. It just seems like a wonderful, wonderful project. Speaking of also run by a Christian, so Joy Bittner, who's in our community, she has been working for years now on this project called Vida Plena, which I think means something like life to the fullest. And what they focus on is evidence-based depression treatment or depression therapy in Latin America, and especially among the poor in Ecuador, the poor in many refugees as well. So mental health, obviously a problem in many places in the world, but we often think of it as just a problem in developed countries. It's also a problem in developing countries. And by creating group talk therapy that encourages people to open up about their problems and to share solutions of what's worked, there's evidence that this has been really, really effective. And Joy has piloted a program to do this in Ecuador, and it seems really promising. And I'm just really excited about this work and where it will head. So another inspiring project. There's a couple of animal startups that are pretty inspiring in their own unique ways. I think it takes a lot of boldness to start projects like this. So Haven and Dustin are both in our community, and they started two different, very different kinds of animal welfare charities. And one of them focuses on finding ways that we can essentially raise fish for food under more humane conditions for the fish. So the Fish Welfare Initiative mostly works in India, but they also work in the Philippines and other countries. And to date, they've improved conditions for millions of fish. And they do this in a way that actually helps local farmers as well. So I think actually their local name in India is something like Farmers for Fish or Fish for Farmers or something like that. And yeah, just very, very cool what they're doing, and also on very limited budget. They were recently recommended as a top charity by animal charity evaluators, which is something like a GiveWell, but for animal charities. And they're growing what seems to be quite rapidly. Also, another project is the Insect Institute, which is definitely maybe out there for many people who aren't as familiar with the animal welfare space. They're focusing on shaping the conversation around how insect farming goes, because maybe God wants us to care about insects, and like maybe God cares not only about insects but also about factory farmed animals. And there seem to be strong connections between how the insect industry develops and how that actually might increase factory farming if it's developed the wrong way. So out of care for creation, both of these projects are really inspiring, and they take a lot of confidence to do something out of the box. I always find EA conferences inspiring. So I personally got much more involved in EA after going to an EA for Christians conference, and there are some more EA for Christians conferences coming up. So that's great news. If you're in London, which none of us on this call are, there's one happening next month. There's also one happening in the US, which is more for development professionals, which I would encourage you to invite any of your friends to if they are economists or working in Christian development charities or in development broadly. But then the EA Global and EAGX conferences are really good conferences that happen much more regularly. They happen several times a year. So if you haven't been to a conference, I really encourage you to consider going to one, and I'd be happy to chat about maybe which one would be best for you. And then finally, EA has a lot of new outreach projects. The movement has quite a lot of new attempts to bring ideas from this movement to the broader world. And there have been some videos on YouTube that have gotten millions of views lately, especially from Kurzgesagt. They have some of the more long-termist, including futurist themes from EA in their videos. But even the more near-termist, or even some of the more the charities that deal with a lot of the core essential EA ideas about giving effectively and helping people who are dying of preventable diseases. Even some of these types of focuses are gaining attention in media. I would love to see it explode. I'd love to see it grow much faster. Giving What We Can has been doing a great job with graphics and with producing tons of content about how to do the most good with your donations. They have a few videos with a couple 100,000 views. And yeah, I'd love to see just more of this. I find it inspiring. We have a YouTube channel as well. Ours is not inspiring. Ours is not at this level yet, but maybe one day. And would love to see more of this happen. So these are just some things I find inspiring. There's so many more projects in the EA space. And I would love to hear what you find inspiring and perhaps why. What else has to be on this list? What did you expect to see on this list but didn't find? Would love to hear. So yeah, thanks for joining today.